Bringing you complete Oklahoma City Thunder coverage. It is Griffin Media. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jeremie Poplin, and my man Steve McGehee is in the airport in Boston before he makes his wonderful transition to the Motor City of Detroit as we prepare for Thunder and Pistons. And remember, both of those games are on Griffin Media here in the city of Tulsa. If you're tuning in tomorrow at 6 o'clock or whenever you're watching this at 6 o'clock, it'll be on CW19, and in Oklahoma City, same time, 6 o'clock, KSBI Channel 52. Steve, good to see you again. It feels like that it was just, a few days ago that we did one of these. But we should start first with a recap from the Oklahoma City Thunder win over Boston. It was dubbed a finals potential preview, and Oklahoma City came through with flying colors. Some of your initial thoughts.
Well, I know my hotel clerk was happy that the Thunder won because he was on the way out. When I checked out, he goes, "I'm glad you won because I had the Thunder on the money line." And I don't know what the money line is, but he was happy. And he goes, "I'll see it in June." And then he said, "But I think it's going to be Cleveland though." So I think he's all in on the Oklahoma City Thunder going to the NBA Finals. And guys from Portland radio this morning, they're kind of leaning towards Oklahoma City as well. So that was a great win. I had my doubts going in that game. I thought maybe Boston would get the win 6 to 8 points, but what Oklahoma City did, as they say, shorthanded. That's been shorthanded seems like all season long for this team, but they pretty much did it with 8 guys. Ousmane Dieng played about 6 minutes, so 8.5 guys, I would say, and they didn't. I said it the other night, they didn't flinch, and that is a tough place to win at. Their first bucket, and the Thunder got that early lead, and then they knocked down a 3. You would have thought that 3 would have won the game for them. That's how loud that place gets. It's the loudest visiting arena. It's right up there with the Thunder. So that was not an easy place to win, and it just shows you the depth of this team, just how good they are. They're a few men down. Crusoe was at practice today here in downtown Boston, so he looks promising to play against Detroit on Saturday, but no J-Dub. J-Dub, I guess, is still back in Oklahoma City. I did not see him at practice today, so they may sit him out. But that was a great win. I think they've won 4 out of the last 5 against Boston. I don't know what that means if they play in the playoffs, because that's a different animal. Kristaps Porzingis didn't play for Boston, but he's missed a lot of games this year for them, so they're used to that.
The thing that I need help understanding, and maybe you can help me, is because I've seen it labeled both ways. We wake up the next morning after a big win, and one of the first things you read is, well, Boston takes 63 threes. We know that they attempt a lot of threes in general, but Oklahoma City can't win by allowing Boston to shoot 63 three-pointers in a 7-game series. Then you click on somewhere else and you read a story where someone writes, well, this was by design. Oklahoma City wants Boston to shoot a number of threes. Like, okay, maybe Drew Holiday, maybe, but when Boston is able to shoot at a high percentage, they are always going to be a handful. But where do you fall on the volume of threes that Boston shoots and whether or not the Thunder might be able to live up to that in a 7-game potential series?
I don't think if they meet in the finals, they'll be jacking up 63 threes. And, they're playing behind for most of the game, so I think that's why they had to do it. That first 2 buckets were 3-pointers, but they won it. Boston is a great passing team. So they're going to move that ball around and find the open guy for 3 if possible, and they're going to put that shot up. And, Sam Hauser on Monday had 9 threes, and then he wasn't on target the other night. So I'm okay with them. If you're going to lose to Boston because they knocked down 22 threes, you can live with that. You can live with that. Boston, though, kind of moved away from the 3 in the third quarter, tried to work it inside, and it worked to some extent. But Oklahoma City always had an answer for their rallies. And that crowd, that was really just it's a tough place to win. You can't, that is an underrated win because the crowd is so loud there. It's unbelievable what the Thunder were able to do. And Wiggins didn't have a very good game. I don't think I think he was like 0 for 9 or 0 for 8. So that's one of your key guys that's had 41-point game just about a month ago. And for him not to score, and they still get the win. But I'm okay with them shooting threes. I think they realize that, man, we're putting up way too many threes. Let's try to find something that works. And that was obviously their halftime goal, let's try to work the ball inside. And Oklahoma City has good interior defense there with Chet and Hardenstein.
Yeah, and I think that plays right into what Oklahoma City wants to do defensively anyway. I come from the opinion, Steve, that I know there are a lot of people that just feel like that Boston can flip a switch by the time they get to the playoffs. This is not last year's Boston team to me. I think the other night proved that they have a very tough time with the physicality of Oklahoma City. I do, in many instances, think that they're kind of a one-trick pony when the volume of threes that they shoot. I know they tried to adjust there in the third quarter, but again, that plays right into the hands of Oklahoma City. And, I know that they shot a lot, but it's not like if you go and you look at some of the stats after that game, Dort and the Oklahoma City defense was doing a great job of kind of rushing some of those threes from Boston the way they were closing out.
That was their best defensive effort since the All-Star break, and it gets the defending camps. Boston, they got in the foul trouble there. Jaylen Brown eventually fouled out, and they'd love to play physical. They were trying to match, I think, OKC's physicality, and it kind of backfired on them a little bit. Maybe it's a bad matchup for Boston since Oklahoma City won the first 2 games. The only 2 times they've met this year. We'll see in the playoffs, but the playoffs are called a little differently. They're a little more physical there. I would love to see this series. I'm still leaning towards Cleveland if the Thunder make it to the NBA Finals. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought Boston would win the other night, so I don't have all the right answers.
I don't think any of us do. And that gets me to my next point, Eastern Conference. You look at the record that Oklahoma City has, 21-1 against the Eastern Conference. That one loss is against the Cavaliers. They have an opportunity to do something that no team has ever done before. And no team's ever even got 28-2 against the other conference in the NBA. So they're on pace as of right now to almost own the entire East, which sets up, at least some thoughts of grandeur for Thunder fans looking forward to whatever happens or would happen in the NBA Finals.
Maybe they need to move to the Eastern Conference, in Seattle. Games. Maybe that's could be something on them. It's not going to happen, but I don't know if that's really Eastern versus Western, but we do know that the Western Conference is a little tougher than the Eastern Conference. But the Knicks, Cavs, and the Knicks, what we got? Knicks, Cavs, and Bucks. If they could split on this series, this next 2 games coming up, I think that's a win-win for the Thunder. But it's possible they could win both. But I'm not leaning a little towards Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee could be that third team. With the addition of Kyle Kuzma, he wanted out of Washington. It was pretty obvious he wasn't giving it 100% in Washington, and he's doing so in Milwaukee. So that was a good pickup for them. But I don't know if it means anything with a great winning record against the Eastern Conference. We'll see if that happens in June. But it is nice to talk about, and it does show what this team is capable of doing.
Couple more items before we get to our Pistons preview. Chet bounce back game. Impressive against the Celtics the other night.
That's the way he is. You could dunk on the guy. He'll just wipe it off and then make a big play, a couple plays later. A few dribbles down the court. That's the way he always is. He doesn't get down on himself. You knew he was going to come back, and they needed that. He was pretty good from behind 3. It was a problem for Boston, with his height as well. You got the guy 7 feet tall dribbling the basketball. You're trying to defend him, and he's got that spin move working now. He had one where he spun in underneath and somehow laid it up for 2, and even the crowd was like, whoa, that was a good shot. He was a difference maker in that game. If he didn't have a game like that, they probably don't win it. That's the way he is. He is able to have an impact in the game with his height and with his ability to shoot threes from long distance and block shots. That's what they want. They want Chet to have an impact on several parts of the game.
All right, quickly before we go to Detroit, give me your thoughts. You've spent a few days in Boston. Was there any reaction to Converse throwing the logo up on the side of TD Garden, the Prudential Center at all? When I initially saw that, I thought, wow, I know you've got some equity in the city of Boston, Converse, with Larry Bird, but man, that's gutsy. Any blowback at all, or did it just go by the wayside?
Converse is pretty strong there in Boston. I didn't know of any. I'm just mad at myself because when I walked out of TD Garden, I was unable. I was at the opposite angle, so I couldn't see that on the side of TD Garden. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's cool. So next time I'll start looking up. I'm going to look up in Detroit. I'm going to look up in Milwaukee. But you see Russ when Russ played for the Thunder out in LA. You see Russ Nike stuff on the side of balls. KD the same thing. Even Paul George at times. So I don't think there's any backlash. Converse, like I said, is kind of strong in Boston. Larry Bird wore Converse, so I don't think there's any issue there at all.
All right, to a Pistons preview. Again, 6 o'clock, KSBI, Oklahoma City, CW19 here in Tulsa. Give me a little rundown of what the Thunder are going to see against the Pistons.
A bad team. They lost last night to the Wizards. They were down late. I'm like, God, they'll come back and win. No, they didn't win. They lost by 4 points. Kate Cunningham had a double-double. I think 38 points, 10 or 11 assists. But Kate's having a great year. There's a reason why he was an all-star. So they got to deal with him. The last 2 times they played in Detroit, they have lost. They haven't looked good. They've looked flat. They've looked like they've been outplayed. So I'm anxious to see how the Thunder can respond that with kind of a different-looking team this year. But without Jalen Williams, it will be tough. But they're going to get an angry Pistons team. This Detroit team, they're in the playoffs this year. Milwaukee's in the playoffs this year. Boston, this is a tough stretch for the Thunder. And so far, they've been up to the challenge. But this is going to be a tough one for them. Detroit, Saturday night road games, they're tough. For obvious reasons, the crowd's a little more ramped up when it's the weekend. So this is what this team needs to get them ready for the playoffs.
Hey, maybe Shaq can finally figure out who actually coaches them, Steve.
What's that?
Maybe Shaq can figure out who coaches the Pistons, because that was a big...
Well, it's I always think of Chuck Daly when I think of the Pistons and Mark Aguirre and those guys. So I'm showing my age right there. I'm sorry.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Steve, safe travels. Thank you so much for joining us from the airport in Boston. You are officially the man.
All right, take care.
That's the type of dedication that you get with Griffin Media and their Oklahoma City Thunder coverage. Steve goes on the road with the Oklahoma City Thunder, as you can tell, live from the airport there in Boston before making the trip over to Detroit. 6 o'clock, Saturday night, CW19 in Tulsa, KSBI Channel 52 in Oklahoma City. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road taking on the Detroit Pistons. Everyone enjoy the game.